So a CV, it's not just CV, it's actually short for curriculum vitae, okay, which is a Latin term for course of life, your life's course, your life's path, okay? That's why it's so comprehensive. And if you look at a curriculum vitae, a CV for short, like I said, it contains everything. And when I mean everything, I really mean everything. All right. At the beginning of a CV, this is a really nice layout of what a CV looks like. You have your name, your contact information, which typically includes your phone number, your address, your email address, of course, whatever you're comfortable with. It's going to contain your whole academic history. Okay. So for many of us at this talk right now, that's just going to be a college degree, maybe master's. Okay. So here, you're going to write down all of the schools that you attended, the degrees that you have, the dates of when you attended those college or grad school. And then you're going to have a list of all of your qualifications, right? And typically you group in your qualifications with your professional history. So some of us, we may already have work history. And if you have work history, it's nice to tag on to each job position what skills you've learned from that job position, what technical skills, whether it's some sort of like computing skill or like research skill. And then this could also be a soft, non-technical skill. For example, an interpersonal skill, leadership, right? Teamwork, things like that. Okay, so I have a question in the chat box. So do you put down the dates that you've graduated or the whole date range you attended the school? So typically you write down when you graduate on a CV, and I'll show you a few examples. It won't really hurt if you put down I attended from, 2015 to 2019. So that doesn't hurt either. Some people just put, graduation, 2000, blah, blah, blah on there. So good question. All right. And then, as you get on with your career, you'll get different awards or honors, and you can add those on there. Professional associations as you move forward as well that you're in, as you know, and especially as you move on further, if you got any grants, scholarships, things, everything that you've gained, right? You really want to highlight all of you because it's curriculum vitae stands for course of life. It's your whole life path, okay? Your professional life path that you're putting on here. Okay, so I really recommend, referring back to this slide when you get a copy of these PowerPoint slides and kind of using this as a way to organize what you're going to put on your CV. So here are some examples, right? And I wanted to also highlight the type of person that's making the CV because it's going to differ, right? Depending on how much education you've gotten. So we look at a medical student here, right? So this medical student, Anne, put down, and you can see here for the question about the dates, okay, you can put down, many people do put down, the range of when you attended a university. So here we see 2002 to 2006 is when college, happened for Anne, right? University of Virginia. She's currently in medical school. So she puts down anticipated graduation date is also useful if you are anticipating graduation. Typically, you put down the city of the university that you go to. So Charlottesville, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. You can see here she has honors in awards, research experience, presentations, so forth. All right. So whatever she's done, she's kind of starting to list it. And you can see here, it's not necessarily super creative or pretty. Okay, there's not really colors, there's no cool creative layout or graphics. CVs are as bland as any sort of job document can go. All right, they're just simply a list of everything. And then you can see here on the right, so this may apply to many of us here today, is that this is what an undergrad CV looks like, right? That may or may not have any sort of post-college degree. So you see education, right? Here you also have GPA too, which is commonly put on that if you are currently an undergrad. And here's an example of the question that I had. You just put down when you graduated. Okay, so you can just say, I graduated, this person graduated magna cum laude in May 2012. Okay, so, and you can also put your Bachelor of Science in Biology. So this is another way that you can write down your credentials from your college education. You can put down any awards or honors, like if you were on Dean's list or any sort of awards program that you were in. Presentations, if you presented any sort of research, you can include that. Any sort of papers that you were on. If you have any research experience, it's always important to put that on your CV, as well as employment history. And of course, scholarships, volunteering is actually a big thing to put on your CV and so forth. So, all of the major professional activities you've done, you want to have a way to list that on your CV. Okay, so first example, med student, then we see an undergrad. And then we have another example of an undergrad CV here on this next slide. So this undergrad decided to use an objective statement, which is totally fine. You typically see that on resumes, but it's totally fine to have it on a CV. Just tailor it towards whatever you're applying to, right? Don't make it generic. Tailor it to whatever specific position you're applying to. Here's another way to put down education. Once again, you put down your degree, what you got your degree in. You can put down expected graduation if you haven't graduated yet, your GPA, honors awards. You can put down on-campus involvement if you were heavily involved on campus, like I mentioned before, volunteering, skills, so forth. So you're basically seeing that there's no hard fast rule for what order you put things in. Of course, education you can see always comes first, right? It's always very early on, and that's pretty standard. But then below that is kind of tailored to what you're applying for. So if you're applying for an industry position that requires a CV, which that is out there, you probably want to put your research accomplishments up higher, okay? Or like publications, poster presentations, things like that. If you're applying for a teaching position, right? So some of you may want to go into teaching, maybe community college teaching, or you want to get some sort of teaching position. You're going to put all of your teaching experience up higher up, right? Or your education, your academic experience is higher up. So you're going to have everything on your CV. You're just going to reorganize it depending on what you want people to see first. And that first page does make a pretty big difference. It's going to be pretty eye-catching, right? They're going to see that first. So question in the chat box, if we transferred from a community college, will we need to put SFSU? So that's a great question. So typically we want to do chronologic order. All right, so you want to put your most recent education experience up, and then below that you'll go in order of whatever came prior to that. So that's a great question. So typically that's all kind of based on chronological order. But you totally can put down your community college experience and you can put it underneath SFSU because that came before. Exactly. All right. And then on the right side, so we saw a medical student example, we saw 2 undergrad examples. On the right side, we see grad students. So that may apply, right? Especially for those of us who are about to become grad students or we're going that direction. You can start seeing here what it looks like when you start doing more and more, right? So here's a grad student. Now you see both the undergrad and the graduate school. All right, so you see here the graduate school, you see the undergrad. If you did like a thesis, for example, you put down your thesis title in your undergrad, you know, what your degree was, your GPA, and so forth. Okay. And then you have honors, awards, research interest. So if this grad student, for example, is applying to a research position somewhere, they want to move research stuff up higher. Okay, so that the person who's looking at your CV, your job application, can actually see the relevant stuff earlier.